Let's get some perspective on this now from Emily Tisch Sussman, a Democratic Party strategist and host of Your Presidential Playlist podcast. Emily, great to have you. There are now calls for him to resign. Congresswoman Kathleen Rice tweeting as well. The time has come. The governor must resign. Is she right? Is it time?
That's a real question among the New York delegation. I think both among the elected, she's the first elected to speak out on the Democratic side, calling for his resignation, which will definitely increase the pressure on the rest of the delegation. And I think that people are trying to grapple with it. I mean, your poll showed that New Yorkers are incredibly split, not just between yes, no of whether he should resign, but the big third category that was in there was they're not sure. Like, we are a couple years now into the Me Too movement, but we've become incredibly clear that we've had a cultural reckoning around the fact that toxic workplaces, sexual harassment is unacceptable, and it happens across industry, it happens across party, and that it is something that is totally unacceptable. Now we're getting more into the nuance of what does cross that line. So I think a very good sign is that he has finally appointed a totally separate counsel from the New York Attorney General's office to be looking into the allegations and investigating them. There were some problems at first with the appearance of the first person he appointed. Wasn't a total appearance of impartiality. And now the New York Attorney General has found an outside counsel to look into the investigation. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good step forward. But it may ultimately not come down to facts. It may ultimately come down to what is our tolerance for politicians. People do like the fact that he is aggressive and has been in COVID, although less so with the nursing homes, obviously. But I think it's going to end up coming down to being more of a question of tolerance rather than a hardcore investigation.
We have not heard from the governor, Emily, in quite a while, but this seems to be unraveling even more since we have. What do you think is going on behind the scenes?
Oh, I think they're very concerned. I think they don't know how to handle this. Otherwise, he'd be in front of the cameras. He loves in front of the cameras. One point I actually think that he made in his initial statement that was interesting, that I think that people are thinking about, although it hasn't really gotten traction during the story, is the fact that if you live at work, that people don't really know how to manage themselves in the line between the personal and professional. And if you spend all of your time with your colleagues, and now if you look into their homes all the time, people don't really know what to do and how to manage that distinction between them. That I actually thought was the most interesting part of his statement. And I do think that's part of what I say, that, when it goes to what is our tolerance versus what actually happened, I think is part of where the reckoning is going to happen. And we'll see how the polls move. Right. If people start to move toward the fact that he should resign, or that they have a tolerance to keep him in office.
Emily, we just have 30 seconds left. But before you go, Texas Governor Greg Abbott today said he's removing the state's mask mandate. 100% open. We wanted to get your opinion on that before we let you go.
Look, I think we do need, I'm heartened by the fact that the Biden administration just said that they will be able to have a vaccine for every American by May. I think that's great news. But to take down all of the mask mandates right now puts Texas in a really bad place, especially as people are congregating from the power failures of the last couple of weeks.
All right, Emily Tisch Sussman, I should say. Thank you for your time, Emily.